All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews. And welcome to the very first one of my 1975 reviews. I'm reviewing movies that came out the year I was born. And today we're talking about one I've never seen, one I know about and I've seen clips of, and everybody knows the Attica. Attica. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people know that scene. And we're talking about 1975's Dog Day Afternoon. The first one we're going to be talking about from my birthday month and year in 19 not month year 1975. Sorry. So this stars Al Pacino, John Cazale, Chris Sarandon, Charles Durning, Penelope Allen, Carol Kane, James Broderick, Sully Boyar, Lance Henriksen. And this was directed by Sidney Lumet, who did like Serpico, The Verdict. He did a lot of really, really good topical movies, and this is a pretty topical movie, to say the least. I mean, the 1970s, right? There are a good amount of people that probably consider the 1970s the best decade for movies. There was a lot going on in the 70s to pull from to make really compelling films. And it didn't hurt, you got like The Godfather, you got Godfather Part 2. You got other movies that we're going to cover, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and All the President's Men and 3 Days of the Condor. There's a lot of really topical stuff. Network, another Lumiere movie. The 70s had a lot going on. There's always a lot going on. But when I look back at time periods of movies that I really wish I paid more attention to and I'm hoping to rectify in the future, it's the 1970s. And I'm glad that we're doing this just for that alone, is to look at some of these movies that came out when I was just a little tyke. In fact, this movie came out and I was not even 2 months old yet. And one of the things I was looking at when I was watching this and thinking about how I exist, I'm a little tiny baby. And I'm just trying to think. I can't even imagine myself being alive during this time period. I look around at the city. I look around at how the world looked in this film. And just imagining being alive back then, it just kind of weirds me out. Like when you try to put context to where you were in the world at the time of things that they're out. And it's really shows like how far we've come. In 1975, New York didn't look that great. But one of the cool things I really love about how this movie starts is we're like right at street level. We're right at ground level. We're like looking at how people are just going about their lives. It's a regular ass day. You're seeing construction workers in traffic, and we're not seeing like the skyscrapers. We're not seeing Wall Street. We're seeing regular people. And I think that that's one of the things about this movie that just is why it's important. This isn't about action stars. This isn't some global catastrophe. Like everything now is like superheroes and Star Wars and cartoons, and this is about real people going through real things. Something that's kind of missing in a lot of stuff that just gives you a really interesting character study into the lives of what this guy Sonny's going through. And yes, this is based off of a true story. It happened in 1972. The real life situation of this guy who robbed a bank with a couple other guys. One of them bails, and then they have a standoff. Now, I've seen a lot of standoff movies. There's been a bunch of them, people taking people hostage. One of my favorites is Inside Man, that also deals with the bank, by Spike Lee. But this is a whole other level, and it feels so authentic. This film really feels like you're really there. And one of my only criticisms about this movie is like the length of the movie. And the only reason I criticize that is because about halfway through the movie, I started feeling like I was one of the hostages. Like the way it was paced and all the things that they go through, it really felt like they put you there in the situation with these people, to the point where I'm going, oh my God, I just want this to be resolved too. And not just because I know where it's headed. We all know where these movies are headed. They're never going to. It's not like, the end of the Shawshank Redemption, right? Where it's like, spoilers for Shawshank. If you haven't seen Shawshank, pfft. So you know that in the end, these guys aren't going to get away with it, especially if you knew the true story anyway. One thing I always, I find interesting about this is the actor of John Cazale, who only made, and I know that this is not news, but he only made 5 movies in 7 years before he died of cancer in 1978. And it just blows my mind how that guy was in both The Godfather Part 2, this, The Conversation, The Deer Hunter, and I'm forgetting what the 5th one was. And this guy was in like the biggest movies of the 70s and some of the most critically acclaimed and award-winning movies, and then passes away at 43. I'm older than this guy was. And also like 43, holy crap, man. I joke about how old people looked. Like back in like the old days, like the old days for us, like the 30s, the 40s, the 20s. Now everybody looked like they worked in a coal mine, and they're like 20 years old. But even in the 70s, man, like, I mean, I guess he chain smoked, but to die at 43 of lung cancer, man, just crazy. Also, Lance Henriksen was in his 30s when he made this movie. He's like such a young buck, and it's like in 11 years. No, yeah, 11 years he's going to be in Aliens when this movie comes out. So, and he looks like between those 11 years, man. Whoo. But I really, really dug this movie, and like I said, the only thing I really complained about was the length of it, because I felt like I was going nuts too, watching this all go down. And I don't know really what I expected from it. Other than you could just feel the pressure that was going on. And right from jump, I was like, holy crap, these guys really, I like that they don't know what they're doing. We always see heists like take place in movies, and everybody's got a great plan and everybody's knows what they're doing, and things still go wrong, but like they feel competent. And these guys feel like the real people how it would have gone down. Like even when he tries to get his gun out at the beginning of the movie, where it's stuck on him and he's just fumbling around and he can't even get his gun all the way out. I loved that. The guy that just is like right at the beginning is like, I can't even go through it. I can't even do this. He just like leaves. Like it starts to go wrong like immediately. And I'm thinking to myself, this movie just started and it is already gone to hell. One of the other things I thought was interesting was that nobody really gets hurt. Nobody gets hurt in this movie. If this was made today, there'd be at least one person shot in the back, like that some hostage accidentally getting shot and or killed. There would be all sorts of stuff going down. There's only one death in this whole movie, and that's not till the end. And it was just boom and over. This was all about character and people. And how I also love that when you take this like really one location, right? There's a couple of scenes that are shot in like Al Pacino's his wife's like apartment or his mother's house, but otherwise it's really just this location. and how it still felt like you were really there. And you really got a sense of New York. Like they used like so many people that were just there. You know, I'm sure that some of these people were extras, but it really felt like you were watching like a real standoff. Like what if 1974 Al Pacino actually robbed a bank? That's what it felt like. It also felt like, did they even like, what kind of script was in this movie? Because so many of those scenes, especially in the street, when they're all having to, what feels like really improvised dialogue of frustration and anger, it really felt off the cuff and felt natural. It really felt like you were watching some real stuff go down. And as Rena in the comment section says, kept expecting people to die throughout the entire film. There was an oppressiveness to it. You're absolutely right. It felt, that's why, like, my complaint was that I felt like I was there so much that it sucked me in so bad that I started feeling kind of awful as the movie went on. And that's not a complaint. And I can't even imagine what 1975's audiences would have thought of this movie. I tried putting myself in that time period and, you know, and being in a theater watching this movie and how people must have been like, because this must have been a really kind of new kind of thing. It's not the first crime movie or anything, but this was after Attica, and we might as well talk about that scene. It was one of those situations where you could feel the police brutality was an issue. You really felt like in this time period, not much different than right now, you know, that events at Attica had taken place where guards, you know, people, innocent people and inmates were being killed. And you could feel that in this movie when he says that the crowd gets into it. It's like something that had been under the surface that they were all ready to turn, you know, like everybody wanted to say something about what the cops did. And you could feel that from the cops in the crowd, right? They kind of had that energy of like, let's just, like, everybody's guns are out. Everyone's guns are out. They just want to blow this guy away. And some people will watch this and say, yeah, absolutely. Shoot that fucker twice. Get the double tap in. But really, I mean, when you look at the police presence that they brought in and how there were guys in plain clothes everywhere, ready to just, with their guns out, to just blow him away. Yeah, no music, right? Except for like the beginning of the movie. I'm answering Sarah's comment here about how there was no movie score. Yeah, it really, I think music, if it had been added, it would have taken me out of it. And that's a really good point. It's something I hadn't even considered, because it just, when every one of these scenes is stress inducing. And if all of a sudden they start playing some pop song from back then, or even like some cheesy 70s kind of romantic sounding, you know, song, some Carly Simon bullshit, I don't know. But like everything would, if they would have done that, that would have taken you out of the movie. Even during the credits, like when the credits start rolling at the end, it's just so matter of fact. As I think Rena said in our watch party, this just happened and here it is. And it's like everybody like probably was sitting in their seats in the theaters back then, like probably exhaling for the first time. When you see Lance Henriksen open up the gun on the side of the car and you know everything that's about to go down. And everybody probably tensed up like, and then after they get him out of the car, that like exhale that probably went down, and still no music. And that's, again, that would have been the time where they lead into some, you know, bittersweet song sung by somebody of the time. I don't know, the Carpenters or something. I don't fucking know. And then, if you don't know, because what I loved how they eventually get to why Sonny was doing this. And when he says his wife, get my wife down here, and suddenly there's Chris Sarandon looking all disheveled just out of Bellevue. And everybody in the audience, in the actual crowd that's surrounding the bank, everybody suddenly is like, what? Because they had just had that scene with his actual wife and kids. And then you snap to, there's a man? He's married to a man? What is happening here? And then when it all gets revealed that he was desperate to come up with money to get sexual reassignment surgery for his wife, Leon. And he talked about this, that in the real life story, that he had his first, he was a bisexual, and he had his first sexual, homosexual experience in Vietnam, and came back, and he, there's Leon here, and they ended up not being, together. They split amicably, I think, and she died of HIV later. But it just really, I love how it's just how they revealed that, because the importance of why they were doing it was really never brought up. What did you need to know? That, they needed money for whatever, and they were robbing a bank. And then you get this extra layer out of nowhere that's, even for the fact that the 70s took a lot of chances talking about stuff that was really taboo, stuff that was really, still counterculture, still very a lot of government stuff because of, the Watergate stuff going on. Vietnam was ending in 1975. So things, the 60s were only 5 years prior. And so they were still dealing with all of that. And then you make a movie like this where they were brave enough to take this story on about a guy who happens to, have a wife that's transgender. Whenever you see things talked about this movie, they automatically show the Attica. But this movie has so many things going on under the surface. Now, they talked about how, and we talked about this a little bit in the viewing party, that it was only $2,500 for the reassignment surgery. And I think we all agreed that even for the time, $2,500 for reassignment surgery seems really low. Really, really low. I know that $2,500 in those times was a lot more money than it is today. But damn, if that didn't feel like, because I don't want to be crass about it, but I mean, $2,500 should only be for a part of the surgery, only, you can have some of this removed, but we're going to need a lot more to get the whole thing done. Let's see, what else do we have here? The fact that the crowd, with the crowd and how they were in it and not in it, they were against the cops, but how they also they changed, how the whole climate changed when they found out that he was married to a woman. So some of the crowd was with him, some of the crowd was against him. And the media circus aspect of this, again, media playing a big part in this. And media hadn't, there was no, CNN, there was no 24-hour news. There was just, the main 3 channels, and UHF channels. There wasn't everything that we have now. So a media circus was a more big a deal. I mean, we see it now. It's like every day. We could turn on the news right now, and I guarantee you there is some sort of fucking thing going on right now that's just like, somewhere. You go on YouTube and they'll be, this just happened. Blah, blah, blah. How many got killed this time? It's like every other day. And while New York in the 70s and, was really known for being a pretty bad place to be. I mean, crime in New York in the 70s was really, really bad. But to have it covered like this, and how it kind of, Sonny almost like how he kind of starts to believe the hype, that maybe I can actually get away with this. Maybe we can actually spin this to our advantage. Part of me wasn't sure if he was really buying into what was happening or if he was just kind of fooling himself. Like knowing that deep down there's really no way out of this, but at the same time I'm going to ride this until the end and see where it goes. Because when the FBI gets involved and they come in and they check things out and he goes, hey, you're cool. Just we'll take care of Son. We'll take care of Sal. And he does that throughout, like kind of like keeps saying that. And even Sonny's kind of like, huh? And then there's the moment of him saying, mouthing that to Sonny. And making me wonder, like, does Sonny really know that this is the hammer's coming down? But then they kind of switch it back once they get the limousine there, and he really kind of feels like it's all going to happen. They also said that that a helicopter wasn't going to fit in there. But in that one scene, there's a helicopter right in the street. Like right down in the middle of the street. You're telling me that thing couldn't, if they had just told people to back off, that it couldn't have landed? I don't know. It just felt weird to me. Maybe it's from the angle. It just looked like it could fit, but it's like they just had a scene where the helicopter's right there. They never mention it again. Even he doesn't mention, like, hey, didn't you just have a helicopter here? There was a helicopter hovering right there. You're telling me it couldn't land. I don't know. I also liked how a lot of these movies have like a wild card, right? You've got the guy with the level head, and you got the scared one, and you got the like wild card, the one who does something to set off a chain of events. And we really don't have that here. The one guy leaves, and while Sal does seem like he could kill somebody with that Uzi, he really doesn't seem to, like, no, there is no, they actually treat the hostages and the people really well. To the point where you'd almost say that some of these people probably have Munchausen's by proxy, where they start to sympathize. It felt like it anyway by the end. I mean, the one lady, the head teller, she could have left. They give her, they're like, hey, just come out with us. You're good to go. And she says, no, I'm going back in to my girls. But when she goes back in, she's also kind of like getting into the whole I was on TV thing. I'm a star. Like the one guy who just delivers pizza. They all feel like they're a part of it. I'm a fucking star, the guy goes. So we also kind of see the beginnings of media and celebrity and criminals and celebrity in this. This movie was like way ahead of its time if you look at all the things that it did that are commonplace now in real life. The way people behaved in this movie was kind of reflecting how a lot of people were going to act way down the line when it came to being on TV, getting on the news, what you would do to be famous. And so I also found it interesting that there were two phone calls that he makes. He gets the phone call from Leon when he finally gets to talk to him, right? And both phone calls, one's to him and one to his wife who has the two kids with. Both of the phone calls, he says, I'm dying here. I'm dying in here. And Leon's like, you're always saying that. Do you know that? You always say that every time. Then when he calls his wife and his wife, and he thinks like, I guess he just wanted to get a different perspective or something. But it was like a huge mistake calling her because he can't get a word in edgewise. And he says the same thing. I'm dying here, like looking to like get some sort of like so that somebody will see it from his side. And I just thought that was really interesting reflections on two conversations and the multiple sides to this Sonny character. The guy balancing a relationship with a woman and having two kids and they're on welfare and the stresses of that mixed with the person that he actually loves, who's a man wanting to become a woman, and the stresses of not being able to fulfill the obligations in that marriage and helping that person who's, having suicidal thoughts and trying to commit suicide because they, the transgender stuff in this time period, talking about it out loud in a movie to a broad audience, it just wasn't every day. Yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show might have come out the same year, but that's a whole different ball of wax. And so this movie really was really far ahead of its time. And I did think that the mom scene when his actual mother shows up was one scene too many. I feel like we really didn't need to have that scene in there just to prove like how many more pressures this guy has in his life. I think we got it at that point. Like we'd already seen his mother. My camera went down. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Yep, here we go. Something happened on the side of my computer for a second. We're almost done though, folks. Did we ever find out who tipped off the cops? Because when the phone starts ringing and I kept thinking, oh, they're there and it's not. And then the phone rings again and they're not. And then the phone rings again. And then all of a sudden it is the cops. So if anybody knows, like, let me know in the comments section. How did the cops know? Was it Stevie? Was it the guy who left right at the first and was like pissed off that they made him walk or take a bus? And he was like, hey, man, there's some guys fucking robbing the bank there. And they're going to make me walk home. Because they were there like that. It was like Reservoir Dogs fast. Like how they say, boom, they were there. I turn around. 1 second they're there. I turn around. They're there. I mean, it happened like right after the guy from the insurance company across the street saw the smoke. They tell the guy everything's fine. They go back, blink, the cops are there. Charles Durning also did a really good job in this movie as Detective Sergeant Eugene, who Charles Durning, great character actor, passed away, I believe, in 2012. So anyway, I think that's about all I've got. I'm looking at my notes here really quickly. I loved the line when he tells the Fed, like, you want to kill me, don't you? You really want to kill me. Like, he says this to other people too, and I think that kind of correlates to the whole I'm dying here thing. Was when he says, I hope the guy that kills me because he hates my guts and not because it's his job. That's a freaking wild sentence. And I think that is about it. So anyway, that was Dog Day Afternoon, the first of our 1975 birthday reviews that we're doing this July. I think we're going to do The Return of the Pink Panther next. So if you liked this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, and the bell for all notifications. Otherwise, if you watched this and you stayed through all the way to the end, not just the people who are here live, but if you watch this in the archives and you hated this, and I don't know why I'm having a hard time with this, please look away if you did like this. If you didn't, we're going to give you the last half hour of your life back and give you a new memory. You just watched Morgan Freeman walk up to Andy Dufresne on the beach in San Juan Tanejo. Have a great night, everybody. See you on the next video. Bye.